Once again, I'm Jasmine, and I'm so excited to talk with you today about what I do. So awesome. So let's jump right into the presentation if that's okay, and we'll get started. Okay, everyone can see that all right? Yep. Perfect. All right. So again, welcome everyone. It's an honor to come and speak before you today. So I just want to say hi. I'm Jasmine once again, and like Amy said, I'm a technical trainer at Universal Robots. So I'm just going to talk to you about what I do at my job. This presentation is mostly about, robots, training, and education. That's what I named it. I work in the training and education sector with robots, so it's kind of a cool mix, and I'll kind of tell you how I got into this and what I do and what I like about it. So it'll be fun. So let's get into it. So one thing you can do as we go through this presentation is if you would like to write down 2 things you maybe learn about me as a presenter, and then maybe write down 3 things you think are interesting about the career that I do. This could be more than that, or it could be just 2 or 3, whatever's good with you, and that'll kind of just help us along as we go. So feel free to do that. All right, so let me open up with an introduction about myself. So once again, I'm Jasmine. I work as a technical trainer in application support at Universal Robots. I'll get into more about what that means a little bit later, but I kind of wear a couple different hats. Mostly I train, and then I also lend a hand to our application engineers whenever they need help with their projects or anything else that's going on with them. So that's kind of what I do at my job there. Some things that I like to do is travel and travel and explore new places. I really love to explore and just go see new places and travel. I read a lot of books. I'm a book reader. A lot of different books, adventure, mystery. Those are like my favorite genres. And when I'm not working, reading, or traveling, I also do research. So I'm actually a PhD candidate in human robot interactions. That's kind of my topic, my focus, and I do that in my part time when I'm not doing the other stuff. So a couple different hats that I wear. It's a little bit about me. So what do I do at Universal Robots? So as a technical trainer, I deliver training to customers and end users. These are people who end up using our robots and then sign up for classes to learn about how to use these robots. So I kind of lead these classes. You can see kind of 2 pictures of what I do. That's kind of me in the front of our training room talking through some of our lessons and then teaching some of our students how to use the robots. I also develop these training materials for our robots. So these slide presentations that you see, I work on editing them and creating them and making the designs for them. So all of this is what goes on in the background and then it shows up in our training classes. I also facilitate tours and lead demonstrations of our robot applications at trade shows and our office showroom. So if some people want to come in, see what our robots can do, different demos, things like that, I'll just walk them through, lead them through that, answer any questions that they have, and present what our applications can do. So some of this is like a screw driving demo of a robot using a screwdriver, and then another one is like a welding demo, describing what that is. So kind of some cool demos they get to show. Once again, I also support the application engineers. What does that mean? So that is a couple different things. It is very random at times. So sometimes it's helping them with a demo. Sometimes it's troubleshooting a customer issue. Wide range of things. I'm kind of just right there for them whenever they need something to need some help on something, and I just lend a hand on that. So very fun stuff, and I really like it. So, do I work with people, things, or ideas? So, I'm going to talk a little bit about what the robot is exactly, but Universal Robots is a cobot company, so it's kind of a mechanical arm robot. That's kind of how you can think of it. And I kind of work with all 3 of these, I'd like to say. I work a lot with people, as you saw in the previous picture. I lead a lot of training classes. There's a lot of interaction with people in the classroom, also working with customer issues and troubleshooting. There's a lot of interaction there. So I will say, excuse me, the main part is the people. I also work a lot with ideas, I'd like to say. So sometimes people will come in and ask how, excuse me, ask how we can use these robots for our company, for our application, and we kind of have to think through them. What's the best way to get this robot working with that? And then I also like to say work with things, and the things in this case would be the robots, but as you'll see shortly, not just the robot. There's also a wide range of supporting software and other ideas and things that tie into it that are used for supporting the robot. So I like to say that's what I also work with. Okay. So where do I work at again? So I also, excuse me, I also work at Universal Robots, right? So that blue icon that you can see on the left is the UR logo, Universal Robots. That's where I work. These are some pictures of what I kind of do there, technical training, application support, and this whole idea of cobots, right? So our robot is actually this mechanical arm. You can see a couple of them in the pictures right here in the middle. This is our training room area. So this is where I spend a majority of my time in here teaching, leading students through our robot exercises and kind of answering any questions anyone has on how to use our robots. And then the picture on the right, I could play this video. This is a demo in our showroom actually that I get to lead people through. So this robot is connected to an Xbox controller, and through that Xbox controller, you can kind of control the robot, have it pick up blocks and some other fun, cool things. And there's Xbox controller. So that's right there. So that's kind of the office space where I work. In the picture, you can kind of see this like glass window behind the table. That kind of peeks into our showroom, and you can kind of see a lot of cool demos as we're inside the classroom learning. So really, really fun place to be. I love my office. I love where I get to work. So it's a really fun environment. Okay, so I'm going to stop for a little bit for a quick little survey. So if everyone's ready, it's quiz time. I have a couple questions for you, and this will be some fun stuff. So feel free to write the answers in the chat. I'm basically going to have like a multiple choice A, B, C, D kind of thing. And based on what you think the answer is, you can just go ahead and put that in the chat. All right, so question one, what is a collaborative robot, aka cobot? Is it A, a robot designed to work independently without human interaction? B, a robot designed to work alongside humans in a shared workspace? C, a robot used exclusively for industrial manufacturing? Or D, a robot that can only be programmed by experts? So I'll give you a minute or so to think about that. All right, maybe a couple more seconds and we'll see where we're at. Okay, so I will go on and reveal the answer. So the answer was B, a robot designed to work alongside humans in a shared workspace. So that's kind of the idea of what collaborative robots are. Universal Robots is one of those robots, right? So a collaborative cobot arm that's designed to work alongside humans. So the whole idea of a collaborative robot, as the name kind of entails, is that we don't want the robot to completely replace, humans or their jobs. We design it so that it's there to work alongside with the humans, and it's very important that they have that collaborativeness in whatever application they're being used for. And again, our robots are not only for experts, they're not only for industrial manufacturing, and they're not designed to work only without human interaction. So they're designed for that collaborativeness, and they're very easy to use. So this is a good question I like to kind of start off as an introduction. All right, I have one more question for you. So which of the following is a key advantage of using cobots in the workspace? Is it A, high initial cost? Is it B, increased safety for human workers? Is it C, limited flexibility in tasks? Or D, requires extensive programming knowledge? So I'll give you a couple seconds to think this one through.
Like most students are saying B.
B? Okay, perfect. So most students are saying B. Awesome. All right, so let's see the answer. Drum roll. It was B. Perfect. No, that's really great to see. Exactly. So one of the key advantages of using cobots in the workspace is that the increased safety of human workers. A lot of tasks that might be deemed, not necessarily unsafe, but in the long run, unsafe for humans to keep doing, they can be replaced by robots, which can ease the workload on the human. So that's why we like to say they're increased safety for human workers. They're also very safe to work around. So that's one of the things that they can do. Great. So great to hear that everyone got that as a majority. I have another question for you. So Universal Robots is known for producing which type of robots? Autonomous drones, social robots, collaborative robots, or humanoid robots?
Most students said C.
Most students said C. Okay, awesome. And let's see. Yes, it was C. Perfect. No surprise there from what we've been talking about. But yes, for now, Universal Robots is just working on cobots. We'll see where the future takes us, but that is our theme, collaborative robots. Great. All right, question 4. So this is, I think, the second to last question. So what is one common application of cobots in industry? So space exploration, medical surgery, assembly line tasks, and entertainment. Give you a couple seconds to do this one.
Majority of students are saying C, Jasmine.
Saying C, okay, perfect. So let's see. And C is the correct answer. Great. Everyone's doing a great job. This is awesome. So I would like to say, if you said C, that was also my answer for it. That's why I kind of highlighted it in red. I would like to say B, medical surgery. It's getting, cobots are very much entering that space. Entertainment, a lot of music videos are starting to use cobots and behind the scene with recording and holding the camera. And space exploration, we never know what's going to happen with that. So I will like to say C is very common right now, but we're growing into the other spaces as well. So it'll be exciting to see as that goes along. Perfect. So one last question for you. As a robotics trainer, what is one of your primary responsibilities? Is it A, designing new robot models, B, training individuals on how to safely and effectively use robots, C, repairing malfunctioning robots, or D, marketing robotic products?
Majority of students are saying B, Jasmine.
Saying B. Okay, great. So let's see if B is the answer. And B is the answer. Okay, nice job. Yes, so B will be pretty much your main theme of your job role as a robotics trainer. You really want to work on training individuals on how to safely and effectively use robots. That's kind of your main goal and main theme around your job. You also might be involved, in repairing robots that are malfunctioning, replacing parts. You might also be pulled in to do marketing for robotic products, and you might also be pulled in to design new robot models. I've done majority, like I said, my theme was mainly around B, but I've also been pulled into the other three as well. So I really like that about my job, that I kind of get to wear different hats, but mainly my theme is to train people to effectively and use a robot safely. So nice job with the quiz. Great job, everyone. Okay, so changing topics a little bit, let's step back a bit and talk about, that question on how do I get to make the world a better place? I feel like at one point in our lives, we always get asked this, and I really like this question, how I get to apply to my job and how do I feel like I do that in an individual basis with my job. So I kind of wrote down 2 points. I like to say I like to empower through education. So education is really important, right? We all know that learning things and applying it to our future, especially with learning how to use these robots. I like to say I get to empower through education by training users on how to master cobots, boosting their skills and confidence. So like one of the most rewarding, things in my job, I think I would say is when I'm, doing a lesson on a robot and someone is trying to learn from me in the training room and then they're kind of struggling for it a bit and then suddenly they're like, "Oh, I got it." And then you can see that moment in their face and they're like, "Yes, I just got this." And that is so rewarding to me. I feel like you can't even put a price tag. You can't put any, rewarding feeling on that except that moment that I actually got to transfer some knowledge to someone and they now know how to do something. So for me, that's very rewarding, and it helps me to know, that I get to make a small difference in helping them safely and effectively use their robot for this specific application. Innovation impact. I also, I help develop demos and other applications for robots. So I deliver these tested innovations, enhancing their success. So before an application comes out for a robot, we actually do thorough testing on it, make sure everything works as expected. Any software releases, we want to check for any bugs, things like that. I help test them, I help develop them and make sure that it's ready to be put out to everyone and that it's safely working. So I like to say that I'm a part of that as well. So that's kind of two things I feel and how I get to make the world a better place on a daily basis. There are definitely a lot more as we go along, but those are just two themes I'd like to say that I get to do. So it is really important for me to know that. I would like to say it is really nice in my job that I get to meet so many different people who sign up to take our classes. I love hearing about what they do, what they got a robot for, and it's just so nice to have conversations with them, learn what they're doing, and tell them about how to use their robot with their own applications. So another fun thing there.
So Jasmine, one of the students had dropped in a question about what's your favorite thing about your job? And I think you just
Ooh.
answered a lot of that, but is there anything else you would add to what you love about what you do?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. Thank you for asking that. So I really, like I said before, and like you kind of highlighted, Amy, I think just getting to meet with so many different people and hearing their stories, hearing what they do with their job and how they're trying to get a cobot involved and how I can kind of step in and help them with that, that is really rewarding for me. So I will say the customer interaction or the end user interaction, it's very fun to kind of meet with people, talk with them, hear their side of things, and growing up, I was never one to really love public speaking. Here I am today. So it's funny where life takes you, but I really love talking with people and kind of, asking that question, how can I help? How can I help you integrate this robot into your application? So for me, that would be one of the rewarding parts.
Awesome.
Great question. Okay, so let me change topics a little more and talk about something real quick. So you can see a little bit of a paragraph that I wrote on the bottom of the slide, but basically this picture is actually a screenshot of, if you go to academy.universalrobots.com, this is what you'll see. And I actually work in the Academy department of universalrobots.com. So what the Academy is where we have that interaction between us and the end users. We post classes on there and people sign up for them. And that's kind of what this whole system is. So I do want to say learning about the product and learning about how to teach users to effectively use it is the first step. And this is not just for robotics, robot as well. It could be for a software application, it could be for another product, it could be for any job that really has you train someone how to use something, right? So for me, coming into this job, it was actually, learning how to use a robot was the first step, but learning about how to use all these other softwares was actually a very crucial and important second step. So I did want to say, something about a job like this, learning how to use the product is this the first step. You also have to learn how to use the supporting resources and other software that is kind of attached to this product as well. So for example, on this Robot Academy website, we have something called our free e-learning. And I will encourage you, there is a link here, and Amy has put the link online, I believe, as well on our profile, but it's academy.universalrobots.com/free e-learning/e-series e-learning. E-series is the model of one of our newest robots. That's why it's called e-series. But basically, this software is free online e-learning that we have people take as a prerequisite before coming to our in-person classes. This is completely free. It takes about an hour and a half to complete. And basically, as you can see in the picture, you can do a couple different things like putting a part into a box on a conveyor, learning how to draw out certain things, dispensing applications. It's completely free, and it's something that I had to learn how to use and how to know all the knowledge about that before I, could even take on this role as a trainer. So that's one of our softwares that I had to learn about. Something else I had to learn about was RoboDK simulation software. There are a lot of simulation softwares that are used with our robots. For example, this RoboDK, our application engineers use that a lot of our end users. And we have a software package that integrates with that. So you can get a virtual model of a robot and put it into your software. I had to learn how to use that and how to support that. On the right, you can see another picture of a software that's actually called our Polyscope X software. And that's, that little, you'll see it in the next picture, but I pulled this kind of like iPad. It's called a teach pendant that's connected to your robot. And I had to learn how to use the software and how to manage it and how to answer questions on it. So these are kind of some of the supporting products that I need to know how to use and use on a daily basis. Okay. Once again, I have another slide on what I do. So I have a couple more pictures here, right? So two of them should be familiar to you, and then that video of me testing applications. But lead and deliver training to users. One thing that I do like about my job is that I'm based out of Massachusetts. We have an office that is very near to Boston and right outside of it. And this is kind of where I'm based. This is home base for me. We also have other training centers. We have them around the US, around the world. Sometimes I get sent to the other training centers in US. So I got to go to California recently, and I got to go to a couple different places like Michigan. And it is really fun to travel and see our different training rooms. That's what I'd like to say. But I kind of, lead and deliver training to users, and then the support with the engineers, assisting with various technical issues, testing new software, developing demos. The top right, you can see another picture of one of our other trainers leading another class. So one other thing I will say about my job is that every training room kind of has a little bit of a difference. Most of them are the same setup, same software, same products that you work with, but I kind of get to see like the different setups that each one has, and I work with that as well. So that's what I like to see as well.
Jasmine, we had a question come in that you might want to address right now. It's
Yeah.
why do you have to update the robots?
Update, yeah, that's a great question. So we constantly come up. So you see this Polyscope software I was talking about on the TV. That TV is actually connected to the iPad or Teach Pendant that I'm holding in my hands, and that is your controller for the robot. And the application engineers and developers are constantly making cool new changes that you can actually put onto your robot. And the reason why it is important to update them is so that you can get those new changes and those new updates. It's kind of like updating your phone, right, or your laptop. It needs to do that periodically from time to time. So that's why it is important to update your robot. And again, our updates are completely free. You can just grab them from the website and then put them into your robot. But that's why it's important to update them. Yeah,
Thank
it's a
you.
good question. Yeah, no, thank you so much for asking that. All right. Okay, great. So I did want to say one more thing. I talked a little bit about this before, but about traveling, right? So I get to sometimes go to our other trainings at other locations. I also get to represent at trade shows and showcase events. So the picture on the top left that you can see, this is actually an event at Gillette Stadium in Massachusetts, and it was a really cool event. But basically, this was a collaborative robots event where we got to see, manufacturing, different manufacturing products and all the cool applications that the Massachusetts area is bringing along. So I got to represent at that. You can see our little table set up. And my job was kind of to stand behind that table, and for anyone passing by who had questions on what a robot does or how it can kind of integrate into their application, I would help answer them, and I would kind of just be there to manage that robot demo, which you can see on the table. I also get to help out other bigger trade show events. So the other pictures that you can see on the right and bottom, this was actually the International Manufacturing Trade Show in Chicago in 2024. And the picture on the bottom middle is actually one of my favorites. I got to man that table kind of for the whole duration. And it was a robot demo that it held a Sharpie, and you would actually type in your name and it would draw out your name. It was so cool. I love doing that. And I kind of, I headed that demo for the next couple of days. It was really cool to see, what people came up with for me to write. And it was really nice to, interact and meet so many different people. There were a lot of students here, a lot of, K through 12, and it was just great to meet so many kids and students and see, them interact with our products. I really love that. On the top right is a robot demo with the Xbox controller again, picking up the blocks. We actually had a block stacking competition, sorry, and whoever could stack the most blocks in the least amount of time won a little like robot prize. So that was really cool to see. And then the ones on the bottom left and right are also just two of our applications, that a sensing application for safety, and then a conveyor belt picking up blocks. So when you have a job like this and you are representing at a trade show, you kind of have to have knowledge about, what can this product do? What can this, robot in my case do? And I kind of had to learn that, had to prepare myself a little bit about that. And when someone at a trade show comes up to you and asks a question, you got to be a little bit prepared for that as well. Like, oh, I see this robot can do this. Do you think it can be integrated for something like this? And it was a fun trade show. So I will say that's definitely one of my favorite parts about this job. Absolutely.
Jasmine, it sounds like at trade shows, you're talking to people who might want to use robots in their company. Is that right?
Absolutely, yes, yes. So this actually was a part of the trade show, which was called the Student I forget the exact name, but it was the student engagement area. So there were a lot of students here as well. But we also had people who, just like you said, wanted to use robots in their applications. So just like you said, these showcase trade show events, we just come in, set up demos of our robots, and then kind of people can walk around, ask questions, and if they see something, it's kind of similar to what they're trying to integrate. This is the best time to talk with them. So
Awesome.
exactly. Hey, that was a good question. Okay, great. I have a couple videos for you. So our robots can do so many different things. I'll just play a couple different videos and I'm gonna I'm gonna mute the volume on all of them so I can just kind of narrate them. These are all found online as well, so we can get these resources to you if you're interested in kind of hearing the narration behind them. But I'll just kind of talk over them. So the top left is like one of my favorites. Our robots make pizza, which is so cool, right? So that is one of our spaces where robots are being used. Industry, food and beverage, that is very popular. Some of our robots are actually involved in coffee shops as well, in decorating with latte art that's being done. The top right, you can kind of see the robot playing cello. So that was really cool for me as well. I play the cello in my spare time. So for me, that was a really cool application I really went to see. So another industry that we're also in is creative music, arts, music videos. That's where robots are being used in, which is really, really cool to see. And then welding, which you can kind of see on the bottom right there in the last video. I know so much is happening on the screen, but I kind of just wanted to give you a snapshot of the different applications these robots are being used for. So I will say as a trainer, and to make this more specific to my job, so there are so many different applications that robots are being used for, right? So I have a list of some of the industries on the slide: food and beverage, manufacturing, creative. Um, there's so many different industries. And for me, I think it's a constant learning process, which is great to learn about what's being used for and how I can actually offer support for that. So, for example, in one of my last trainings, I actually had a couple of people from a pomegranate manufacturing company, and they were packaging pomegranates, and they wanted to use their robots for that. So I got to make the training, a little more specific for them on how to package pomegranates, and we had some questions on that. So it really, in this job, and I will say for any job where you have to be a trainer for like a product or a technical product, you're just constantly learning, different things about what the robots can do, and I'm constantly being surprised at them. So I love the Chilla one right here. So that's just some fun stuff about what a robots can do. I had another student who also was from a company that manufactured the drum cymbals, so that was really cool for me to learn about, and I got to help them with specific, questions on how to do that with their robots. So yeah, once again, with this job, I will like to say you meet a lot of different different people who are doing really cool things. So that's definitely one of my favorite things about this job. Okay, so on to my next slide. Every career will have work you love, work you like, and work you would rather not do. So the best way that I wanted to answer this question is, I talked a little bit about this before. Updates to the product software and hardware to our robots mean that there are always new things to learn and integrate into the training. So every time we do have a software update, we have to update the training materials, right? And we have to make sure that that reflects what our robots software has. So I don't really see this as something I dislike. I rather see this as a more of a fun challenge that I get to integrate on a daily basis. So this is something that I would like to say, this is relevant to any software product, any, technical product that does need updates. We had a little bit of a question like this before. It's just something that you kind of have to, adapt to and integrate into your training. And I see this, again, as more of a fun challenge. It's not necessarily a dislike, but you kind of have to stay on top of things, right? And know, what is the next update? How do I put it into my next training? Things like that. How do I anticipate new questions on this new update, right? So this is more of a fun challenge I like to see rather than a dislike, if that makes sense. Okay, so I have a slide on my career journey. So how did I get here? So the way that I got here is I actually I have a couple different icons here which kind of show my story. I started at Middlesex Community College in Massachusetts, and I got my associates in computer science. After that, I transferred to UMass Lowell, which is a university where I got my computer science and electrical engineering degrees. And then I also worked at the UMass Lowell Nerve Center. So this icon that you see on the top left here, that is actually our robotics lab, and it stands for New England Robotics Validation and Experimentation Center. And that's kind of where we develop, robot applications and do different research involved with robotics. And that's kind of where I got interested and started in robotics in the first place. I interviewed for a job there. I got in, and I just really loved the atmosphere with the robots and working on them and doing different things with them. So that's kind of how I kickstarted my career into robots. And then after I graduated from college, I went back for my master's in computer science, and then right out of that, I kind of got into UR, so University of Robots right here. So I have that on the right of my slideshow. So again, that's kind of my career journey. Obviously, there's so many different paths that different people at University of Robots have taken to get there, but this is kind of my career journey and how I got there in a sense. My next slide kind of has a little more detail. So I also did a minor in robotics. So I kind of always been interested in robotics and how they work. And I did a lot of coding. My electrical engineering degree had me with a lot of electronic circuit building, working on building on robots. That was a class that I did have in my educational background. And then again, my career experience was being a research assistant at my robotics lab that I worked there. I also was a tutor and supplemental instructor at some point in my college journey. So I was involved in teaching and communication and transferring knowledge throughout my career, which was kind of cool to reflect on and see back how it took me to where I am today. Preparing for this career, one thing that is crucially important is communication, presentation skills, effectively communicating technical details, quickly adapting at what a product is and how to teach how to use it. For me, growing up, I think I said this before, but I was not into public speaking. That was like the last thing I wanted to do. And here I am today, and here I am with this job, and it's kind of one of my favorite things to do. And I saw that throughout my college journey, my career journey. I kind of grew into that space where I loved interacting. I love talking with people, and this job, I feel like it's a perfect fit, which combines all of my interests in technology and teaching and education, and I'm just so glad that I got to be where I am today. So I will say, preparing for this career, you could have a really good, goal pathway in front of you, but you can kind of just see where life takes you as you do the things you like to do. For example, I was a tutor back in college, but I didn't know, I wasn't preparing for a job in education, but that's kind of where it took me. So I will say, if you are preparing for a career like this, a technical trainer or an application support for any kind of technical product, don't be too concerned on, getting the exact, internships or positions that will lead you up to this, because all of that knowledge, as long as you're getting, presentation skills, you're effectively able to communicate details, you're adapting at learning, as long as you have those skills and whatever internships or, volunteer opportunities or classes that you do, projects, those will kind of build up on how you get to this point in space. So yeah, I just wanted to encourage you there. Okay, so how to learn more about this career. Use Tallo to explore its career and related careers. Thank you so much to Tallo for hosting us. It is a really great resource, so I want to encourage you, highly recommend you use this. It is a really good resource to find out more about careers. Also, ask caring adults in your life who know what you could to talk about this career, whether that be, people at your school or caring adults in your life, or any questions from resources and representatives at Tallo. That would be a good resource to go to, and they can help you with this career and others. Well, it was so good talking with you all today. I'm going to open up the floor for questions, and hopefully I can give you good answers to anything that you're wondering about. So
we have some great questions, Jasmine. One question that came up several times is the students would like to know what classes should they focus on in high school that will prepare them to go into robot-oriented education.
that is a great question, definitely. So I'll actually skip back to this slide. This is kind of what I did, but I will say any sort of classes for robots and robot education specifically, or just robotics?
Just to be prepared, so when they get out of high school, they're ready for that next step. What should they take in high
Gotcha.
school?
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I would say if you're looking for kind of a technical role or something more along the sides of representation, definitely take whatever, computer science or engineering classes or mechanical engineering, like building, working on things, assembling things. That would be a great class to take, I think, especially with learning how the back end of robots work, the science behind that. I would highly recommend that. Obviously, if you have anything on robotics, definitely take that if you are interested in it. That will definitely help you with, learning the mechanics behind it, the physics, and more of those science again behind it. If you have any, public speaking classes that you'd like to join, that would definitely be something that could help you prepare for this as well. Learning how to communicate, how to stand up in front of an audience. It definitely is harder than it looks for some people, for sure. For me, it was. So that would be definitely a good thing to go for. But yeah, I would say any, computer science related classes, engineering related classes, designing classes, maybe even graphic design, especially with these materials that we constantly make for our products, designing how to make really good presentations, that would be a good class to take. So, yeah, great question.
So are math skills really important, Jasmine? Should students really
Mm.
focus on taking those next level math classes?
Yeah, so I will say for any computer science degree, you will take more math than you wish for. You will definitely end up doing that. So I will say it is kind of important. It kind of depends on, like, obviously in my life, I definitely don't do a bunch of, calculus on a daily basis, but it is good to have that knowledge, especially when you're, doing more of those you're learning more about, especially with, I'll take my job as an example, right? The software I was talking to you about, a lot of the functions have quite a bit of math involved with them, right? So when we explain how to use them to end users and our students, we kind of have to have that understanding on, rotational degrees, the XYZ plane, that sort of thing. So I will say taking quite a bit of math will definitely prepare you for this career. So that is a little bit important. Yeah.
Awesome.
Mhm.
So, do you see AI and machine learning playing a role in the future of robotics? And what advice would you give to students or young professionals who are interested in robotics?
Ooh, okay, that is a really good one. So AI and machine learning. So what's really, really cool is I actually get to work in the office with the R&D lab, research and development lab. So I get to kind of see some sneak peeks into what they're working on. So I will say, with the new space in AI and machine learning that has taken over recently, we're integrating it. We're excited about it, and I get to see some cool projects that actually have AI and machine learning involved. Some of our demos are using that currently with a camera and sensing, and you can see our robot arm is incredibly useful. But once you put a camera on that, add some AI and machine learning concepts, you can see how far it can take you. So I'm very excited about it. I think, it's really cool to see what that concept will allow our robots to do. And it's really going in a good direction. That's what I'll say. So it's something cool to learn about. The second part of that was advice that I would give to future. What was that second part, Amy, again? Sorry, I missed that.
Just what advice you would give to students and young professionals who are interested in robotics?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's really great. Yeah, I would give the advice. I would say keep an open mind. So there are so many things to learn about, so many things that are constantly developing and being built. And I would say keep an open mind to learning as much as you can. You can start right now, about there are a lot of great resources online that are being put out on robots and the new applications that are being built. So keep learning as much as you can, reading about them. The mechanics behind how robots work, you can start with learning about those right now, and different, like Tallo, for example, different career websites which kind of talk about what you would do as this role. Keep an open mind on learning about the different, components behind these jobs and these robots, and that would be a great place to start. For me, especially in high school, I would watch, obviously the Boston Dynamics videos are great on robots, but I would watch a lot of like robotics videos and behind the scenes on how robots are built. That was kind of my thing. So I would say keep learning and keep an open mind. That would be my advice.
So, one final question. Along your journey, what have been some of the biggest challenges that you have faced, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, yeah, along my journey. That is a really good question. Let's see. So I can start in college. I spent COVID, right? COVID was I think a chapter in all of our lives. I spent, I think about a year and a half was it, as we all did at some point in our educational background, I believe, fully remote. And that was kind of a challenge with a robotics career, right? Because a lot of the time we couldn't be in the lab physically and we couldn't be working with the robots together in the lab setting. So I will say for me, that was a challenge for at least, a year and a half, just not being able to have that experience. But what I did learn is that there's so much virtual software out there that you can learn from. So for me, I think it was adapting and finding those tools that you can use in and if you can't find them, in a physical space, there are a lot of tools online and a lot of tools for educational resources online that you can kind of learn from. So that was, I think, something that I did adapt to over COVID. One of the challenges that I did find again was public speaking with this job role, right? I didn't anticipate how much of it there was. I definitely knew it was a technical trainer role, right? The job description. I was prepared for that, but just kind of practicing on our resources on how to effectively communicate these details to our users. For example, the slideshow, I think you saw in the pictures. If I go back to that, right? I can just scroll back to that real quick, but right there, yeah. So the slideshow you see on the TV, right? So there's a couple hundred slides in each of our trainings, right? And I think something that I got really nervous about when I first started was how do I memorize all this information and be able to communicate it to others, right? That was my biggest challenge, but a lot of it was just kind of spending time talking to myself, practicing presentation in front of a mirror, right? We've all heard that before, but it does really help. And just kind of going over it on my own time and practicing presenting those information to people. So I think for me, a challenge was just getting all of that information down about the robot and trying to put that into my repertoire in my head of all the knowledge. But that's something that I kind of did, and it was a challenge, but I got through it, and I can say that I kind of now have a lot of that information just in my repertoire, right? And I can just kind of pull it out easily whenever there's a question. So that would be some of the challenges.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. Jasmine, thank you so much for being here with us today. I feel inspired and want to learn more about all the amazing things you can do in the field of robotics. Had no idea there were so many options. So appreciate you very much being here and sharing with these young people. I know you've inspired more, and just thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Amy, and thank you so much, everyone, for listening. It was so great to speak with you today, and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.